Today on Locked On Red Wings, Detroit is rested but still bested as Tomas Hertl scores a hat trick in a 6-3 victory over the Detroit Red Wings.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a sports writer for C&G newspapers, while I am a color commentator for Oakland University ACHA D1 men's hockey. And Scotty, on today's episode, we are going to break down the 6-3 loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. Kind of more of the same for the Detroit Red Wings. Thanks for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You just run out of adjectives after a while. It's just like, yeah, they lost. Right? It's just they've won 2 games in the last 10, I think. They're 2-8 in their last 10, all regulation. It's been rough lately. I'm not even going to be looking at the standings from here on out, to be honest, just to shield myself from the pain. So, in my estimation, with 13 games left, they're out of it. Scotty, first thought on this hockey game.
To be completely honest with you, I think my first thought was like, that's a dagger. And not that they had a high likelihood of going on a run. We spent all episode, was that Friday's show? We spent all episode just talking about the rest of the season and kind of what they would need to do to get back into that picture and get back into the playoff hunt and whatnot. And I don't know. It's not mathematically impossible. So technically everything's still on the table and whatnot. But I think this was the game that I finally was like, all right, like this is truly kind of wraps. Like this is over. Not only was it a loss to a team that you really needed to win and against a really good hockey team, obviously, but it was also a game where you looked pretty outmatched. To be completely honest, especially for about 2/3 of the game, I think you were pretty comfortably outmatched at that, and that's like we said Friday, man. It just feels like it's always something. It just feels like every game you go in, and like even if one thing has improved from the last game and is looking better, it almost feels like it's at the expense or like it costs some other area of the team to completely fall apart. And I guess for whatever it's worth, the penalty kill has been kind of that awful thing all year. But yeah, man, I think genuinely my first thought, not even anything that happened on the ice, it was just like, well, that's that. Like that's pretty much the year. And we'll see. I don't know. Maybe we can talk like this week about what there is still to like watch for the rest of the season. If assuming it's
watch for, more like live for.
All right, well, that's dramatic, but you get my point. I think I think that was probably my initial reaction was just like that truly is kind of the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, you said mathematically, it's not mathematically impossible, but I think you could pretty comfortably say it's mathematically improbable that they're going to make the playoffs at this point. Their chances to make the playoffs are like 2%. They're, I think, 5 points out with like 13 games left. Like you have to go on an incredible run and expect a couple teams ahead of you to just completely fall off. And I'm sorry, that's just not happening. As far as the game goes, I mean, I echo the sentiments from Todd McClellan's postgame where he said, I thought we had the offense to win this game, but it was everything else, basically, that was not up to snuff. And that's kind of been the theme. You're talking about how lately it feels like it's something else every single day. You know, I almost feel opposite. I feel like we've been losing on this stretch the same way every single game. Throughout the season, yes, it's something. It seems like it's always something different. But on this recent stretch, it has felt like every single time they lose, it's because one of 3 things or multiples of 3 things is the penalty kill, which is always one of. It's defensive breakdowns at 5-on-5, which showed its ugly head, or poor goaltending. Cam Talbot led in 5 goals in this game, but I don't really, honestly, watching those goals, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot he could have done on pretty much any of these. There's maybe one goal where I was like, I really wish he could have bought us a huge save there, but it was a huge opportunity. That was Waugh's goal to end the first period, where the defense just got split, like super So frustrating. That's a moment where I was like, I wish Talbot would have been able to make a big save there, but he was put in a poor position. It was your defense got completely beat with like 5 seconds left. It was inexcusable. But yeah, I mean, this was a game where I thought the offense was there. They scored 3 goals, and honestly, coming out the gate, it felt like a back and forth hockey game. They were both exchanging chances pretty much the entire time, going back and forth. But it's just that Vegas is a better team at that element of the game than you are. And I think it was either Max or Sean or Prashanth, one of those 3 guys who, 3 of the brightest minds in Red Wings social media, where they said something along the lines like, if you're going to try and exchange grade A chances with the Golden Knights, you're going to have a bad time. And clearly that's what happened, because you lost 6-3, really 5-3, because the last one was an empty net goal. But as far as difference maker goes, Scotty, there's one, really. Tomas Hertl scored a hat trick in this hockey game. 2 of his goals, he scored the exact same way. And I guess if you want to extend it to 2, right, if we want to both have one, I'm kind of putting words in your mouth here. I apologize. But you could then say the penalty kill was the other difference maker on the wrong end of it, because 2 of those Hertl goals were the exact same play on the penalty kill.
Yeah, so, I think that is those are pretty objectively the 2 biggest ones, I guess. The other, coming into the recording, I was going to say Eichel, 4-point night. But yeah, I mean, obviously was getting assists on a lot of those goals. So yeah, man, like they again, especially for 2/3 of this game, Vegas was pretty comfortably the better team, and especially kind of as the game wore on, it almost felt like that discrepancy and the difference between the 2 teams grew like wider and wider. Like you said, this was something that maybe they got off to a good start. It was kind of even, kind of back and forth, and as Vegas just did what they do, and they just continue to apply pressure and play sound defense, and it led to not a very close game in the record books.
Yeah, no, Jack Eichel's a good pull, by the way. 4-point night. That was an incredibly great game by Jack Eichel. But, I mean, that penalty kill is something that we can talk time and time again. I mean, McClellan did say that they changed it to penalty kill again, and maybe that was leading to some of the confusion. But it was such a passive penalty kill. It was just a tight diamond down low, and they had a pretty passive diamond to begin with, if I'm recalling correctly, but it felt a lot tighter, like almost below the circles exclusively. And I don't know if that was just because of how the Golden Knights are set up. They were trying to play close rather than expand to the boards. It could have been just situational, but I'd have to look at how it was maybe a couple weeks ago and see what really changed. But the problem I had with these penalty kills in particular is there was nobody covering the bumper at all. And I know you're obviously down a player, right? But that bumper, both times it was Tomas Hertl, had free range to kind of move through the middle as they saw fit, and both times just made a beeline for the front of the net, and nobody was able to intercept that pass. The first one, Moritz Seider almost intercepted. He read it fine. The second one, Justin Holl, and PK Subban was talking smack about Justin Holl on that play. Honest to God, I'm watching that replay. I'm like, I don't know what you expect Justin Holl to do there, because there's nobody covering Hertl in the middle. So Justin Holl's playing the passing lane. And if he attacks the puck carrier in that situation, that puck's going to go right from the puck carrier stick to Tomas Hertl. Now, granted, that is what happened regardless, and Justin Holl did not attack the puck carrier. But in my eyes, that has more to do with how they played the system than it did with Justin Holl. If Justin Holl abandons his position right there, that's going right to Tomas Hertl. Like that's what the puck carrier was trying to bait for, was to get Justin Holl away from the net. It was just 2 really good passes, but it's still, these passive PKs where this bumper can just kind of move freely. And not just the bumper, like you're along the boards, along the half wall, along the point, like everyone is able to just kind of move as they see fit. And the Red Wings kind of just like hunker down. I don't know, man. This penalty kill is, I mean, they're not even across 70% on the season by the end of the year, and that is terrible.
Just what happened? Like I'm still, it is mind-boggling to me that this team's penalty kill was not this bad a year ago, and going into the season, it was largely the same group of players. I am still so perplexed on what the heck happened. We had a coaching change mid-season, and it didn't get any better. Like, it is It's mind-blowing to me. And PK Subban was clearly has some beef with Justin Hall, man. I mean, even outside of what he was saying with that play, he really kind of laid into him a little bit there. I thought that was kind of unnecessary and a little bit wild there. But man, like I agree with everything you said. And I think that this summer, when we talk about ways to improve the team and kind of what we're expecting out of the team this fall, I really do think a lot of that conversation is going to be how to continue to improve the team defensively and ergo, the penalty kill, get it back to even being remotely serviceable. We're not asking for the best PK in hockey.
Well, and like the defensive side of that argument goes so far beyond just the defensive core. Like obviously you have Edvinsson and you have Seider legitimately, and that's probably it in terms of top four defensemen. But like the forwards are a big part of why we're so poor defensively too.
For sure.
Like on the second goal where Tarasenko went to the net front, screened Talbot, didn't even bother to grab who redirected that shot. Was that Hertl's second goal? I think that was Hertl's second goal. Didn't even bother to tie up Tomas Hertl, just like kind of turned away from it. Like you went to the net front, screened your goalie, and didn't even tie up the guy you went to cover for. Like, and that's just like a small instance. Like it's throughout the entire game. Like they're so poor defensively throughout the lineup that they just can't like eventually, like we said would happen, we were worried would happen, like the goalies got worn down and they stopped being able to pull miracles out their ass. So, I mean, they're not a good hockey team. That is the reality we're facing. They're not a good hockey team, and that's honestly on Steve Yzerman at this point, which we've talked about and we'll continue to talk about. Scotty, we're going to head to segment 2 because we're already over. When we return, we'll talk about notable performers of this hockey game, so stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings.
Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. Brian, get out of here. This isn't your time, okay? Take a break. Take a breather. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, as I always tell y'all, I love the no shells variety. It is the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, well, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Did you know getting a good night's sleep is the #1 recipe for long-term success in life? I didn't. It took me way longer to realize than I'd like to admit. It was years of tossing and turning. I was always tired. I never felt like I could live up to my potential, but not anymore. Thanks to Bare Mattress. I used their sleep quiz and I matched with the Elite Hybrid. It's perfect for side sleepers like me. Now I wake up energized. I'm getting deeper sleeps and I'm ready to attack the day. No matter how you sleep, Bare Mattress has a match for you with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout for 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. You got it. Okay, hold on. Nope, there we go. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, notable performers in this hockey game. I think it just makes sense to kind of lead off with, for the Red Wings at least, Patrick Kane casually having a 3-point night. He was pretty much the only bright spot in this hockey game, and 2 of his points obviously came on the power play, a pass to Larkin in the bumper, who passed it to Raymond, who scored the goal, and then, of course, burying one of his own on the second power play, And then the primary assist on Alex DeBrincat, just absolute snipe over the shoulder. Patrick Kane having a 3-point night in a game you lost 6-3 is a nice silver lining.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll have a hefty discussion about Patrick Kane and kind of his future this summer as well. This is going to be a big talking point for the team. It was last offseason. It's going to be again this offseason, man. And I think after a slower start to the year, the caliber in which he has been playing and producing points over the last 2 months now is pretty stellar. And this obviously is just another one of a long list of games, honestly, over the last just 3 or 4 weeks that have been fantastic for him.
Yeah, he's been pretty solid. His line overall has been pretty solid. We've talked about that time and time again. It was pretty good with Kappa as center, but now with Casper at center, it feels like it's taking another step forward.
For sure.
They led the team in. As a line, they led the team in shot attempt share, 57% at 5-on-5. Their expected goals share also led the team at 69%. Every time they were on the ice, they were producing offense. I thought the top line, even with Michael Rasmussen on the wing, was also pretty solid. Honestly, the top 6 were good all game long, and that kind of leads into what we were talking about with the offense being there, right? Raymond scored, granted it was a power play goal, but Michael Rasmussen filled in nicely on the role that Soderblom had, being and Marco Kasper even at being the puck retriever guy, and they had a expected goal share as a line of 56%. They looked good on the ice pretty much the entire game. Really, Scotty, my issue comes in with the depth, and part of that was to be expected, right? Gustafsson out, Soderblom out, so Rasmussen got bumped up. The depth for both defense and offense in this game really reared its ugly head.
Yeah, and that's, again, something we have talked about all season. So I guess to your point earlier about how a lot of the games that they have fallen short of lately have, you can poke the same holes in all of those games. And I think that is absolutely one that has been a constant, not only throughout this streak, but all season, right? I think the 2 really big hot stretches may be omitted, and that is why they went on hot stretches there. But even in those games, I can remember coming on here after wins during, one of the big winning streaks this year and being like, this is great and the top 6 is producing, but, we still want to see more depth production and depth scoring, and hopefully they can get going a little bit more. And we never really saw it, man. I mean, you can kind of just go down the list. Berggren, I don't think has been producing offensively maybe as much as expected. He hasn't been terrible, though. Comfer certainly has had a rough year. Kopp is hurt now, but when he was playing was fine defensively, but wasn't really producing a lot offensively. Like, you can really just bounce around. Tarasenko, we've talked about at length all season. And then a lot of the other guys down there are kind of defensive first guys that you shouldn't be relying on for points. You need it from the other guys I just mentioned. So, yeah, like this is another evidence point in a long list of what's the word I'm even thinking of? Another evidence point in a long case to prove. I don't know, dude. I that one really got away from me.
I think we all understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what I'm going to stop then. That's what I'm going for. So.
Yeah, it's the depth was already a problem, and now it's just a deeper problem. And I think you can kind of leave it at that, right? Like Austin Watson came up, he only played 8 minutes and 53 seconds in this hockey game. I think Austin Watson gave you the performance you were expecting. He led the team in hits, 4 hits, some big ones. Jonathan Berggren had only 11 minutes in this hockey game. I think he started the game, I think, on the third line, and at a certain point, Craig Smith was on that third line instead of Berggren. That third line with Berggren on it, Scotty, had a 3% expected goal share. They only had 0.01 expected goals for. That is really bad. Only 2 shot attempts for in that span. At least when Craig Smith was on it for 7 minutes and 52 seconds, they were at least matching the shot attempts, even if they were getting outclassed in the quality of those attempts. So that bottom 6, it was already rough. It's even more rough once you start pumping in more and more AHL talent onto it, and it's going to be a problem as the stretch goes on. But again, I mean, whatever. It's no Now I'm losing what I'm trying to say. It's what's the thing? It's nothing off my back. What's the saying go? No skin off my back.
Yeah.
Because like I'm there. I don't expect them to make the playoffs at this point. I'm back to where it's like they had the opportunity. They played themselves out of having the destiny in their own control. And so now when these games happen, it's like, all right, bullet point for the future going into the next offseason, another thing to fix, because we're going to be doing offseason hockey talk in mid-April yet again.
Sure are.
Let's go to segment 3 when we return. I want to talk a little bit about Moritz Seider. I want to talk a little bit about William Lagesson. Lagesson we hadn't seen. He'd been with the team for 2 months. A lot of people forgot he was with the team because he was with the team for 2 months and did not play. So stay tuned to segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where the heck did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When you start using Monarch, you're going to realize just how much you were spending on food delivery. Now you're going to budget smarter and save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Monarch, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, I don't know if you noticed when watching this hockey game, but Moritz Seider ended up getting demoted in this game to the third pair. It ended up being, I believe, Ben Sherratt. Was it Ben Sherratt and Albert Johansson, Edvinsson and Justin Holl, and William Lagesson and Moritz Seider? And originally when I saw that, I was like, okay, was it Sherratt that got demoted or Seider that got demoted? And by the end of the game, it was very clear Seider was the one who was having his minutes limited. He finished the game with 1955, which is, still higher than Albert Johansson or William Lagesson. But comparatively, Ben Sherratt finished with 20-23, Simon Edvinsson finished with 24-27, and Justin Holl finished with 21-28. Watching the game, I was a little surprised by that because I didn't think Moritz Seider had done anything so criminally poor that he deserved the demotion. It could, and I fully expect him to be back on the top pair come Monday night's game against Utah. But at the same time, it could have just been one of those moments where it's like, okay, you're not giving me the performance I needed, so I'm going to just remind you nobody's impervious. Because making that kind of call, and this is where I appreciate this actually out of McClellan, not being afraid to sit your stars shows the rest of the lineup that anybody can be held accountable. And so I actually kind of like it from that angle, but at the same time, and upon review, watching some of the replays, I go, okay, I can kind of see where maybe McClellan saw a little bit of maybe laziness. But again, it goes so much deeper than Moritz. Not laziness isn't the right word, but like plays could have been done differently to prevent a goal. But it just goes so much deeper than Moritz Seider that it does at the same time feel weird to start with him when, Ben Sherratt's been so poor lately, and so has like pretty much everyone else in the defensive core. Why is he the only one being held to this high standard? I don't know. I both love it from one perspective, but hate it from another.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's the only one. I mean, we've seen people get demoted multiple times already in the McClellan era, but I do think that I do appreciate the fact that there's a message being sent that, nobody is safe, kind of like what you said, and that everybody has to be held to a standard. I think it's also fair to say that every player has a different standard to be held to, right? Like Moritz Seider, unfairly, fairly, whatever, has a significantly higher bar and a higher expectation than anybody else on the team, certainly anybody else on the blue line at a minimum. So, I have no issue with it. The team is spiraling out of control. I they could send anybody down. I wouldn't really care. Like that. Clearly, something needs to happen. Clearly, something needs to jolt the locker room, or send a message to the lineup on a nightly basis. I certainly don't have any problem with it at all. But it's always going to be one of the more notable things when something like that happens to a player of that magnitude, for sure.
And as far another defenseman I want to talk about that we've never talked about before was William Lagesson. First time he's played with the Detroit Red Wings since getting called up 2 months ago. He's been just skating with them during practice and sitting in the press box during games. I don't expect us to have a huge amount to break down with him, but what'd you see from his game?
It was fine. This is again, everybody has different expectations, right? So not a super high bar, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You're not going to watch him and expect let's see if we can get top hair production out of this guy. If he's serviceable, then he's doing his job. And I think, sure, man, limited playing time. Can't imagine he's going to play too much going forward. And, when we talk about what we're expecting the lineup card to look like this fall, he's not going to be in it either. But if he can provide to be valuable organizational depth, then he'll have a role in an organization going forward. So, I'll always root for guys like that, obviously.
Yeah, I was happy to see him get in on a game. I thought, they used him in such a sheltered role. They used that third pair in a sheltered role regardless. Right. I thought he was serviceable. There were a couple times where I was like, he's getting pretty heavily out-muscled, but he's far and away the only player who's getting pretty heavily out-muscled in that hockey game. I thought he was serviceable. I was just happy to see him get in the game. Same thing with Austin Watson, right? He's playing so well with Grand Rapids. I was happy to get him here, especially because of the physicality he brought, but he was played in such a limited role intentionally because they know his limitations, which you hope they would in that situation.
For sure.
They play Utah up next. We saw Utah a couple weeks ago. What even do you preview at this point for this hockey team? It's go out there and try your best to win the hockey game. Look at the team ahead of you. Clayton Keller, 77 points. That's the guy you want to keep your eye out for the most. But I don't know. They're still fighting for a playoff spot, and they're going to fight, and they should fight up until the final whistle. But obviously, us here on the podcast, taking a step back and looking at the big picture, they're probably screwed.
Yeah, this is a game, if you would asked for our opinion of every game the rest of the season, right? Kind of the conversation we had on Friday. If you're looking for not a let up, because Utah is not a bad hockey team at all. But if you are looking for any type of breathing room or where do you need to win games, I would say this and Boston are probably those. Super, I know I sound super encouraged and optimistic here. But that, if going into this stretch, I probably would have circled that game as okay, if you want to try to get through this, you're going to have to win this one. So take that as what you will. But as you can tell, I don't think Brian and I are on the edge of our seats here expecting a win either.
I'm going to tell you where my head is at, Scotty.
Your
Check
shoulders?
What I have up. That was so lame. That was a me style joke right there. That's how lame that was. I'm bringing this back, Scotty.
Oh my! Really?
We're in the top 10.
Oh man,
that's where we're at, buddy. We're in the top 10. They're not making the playoffs. Might as well spin the lottery and see where we land.
Are we really back in a top 10 pick?
Yep, they're sitting 10th right now.
If you would have told me a week before the trade deadline that this team would be, or going into Four Nations, if you would have told me during that break this team would have a top 10 pick in the draft, I would have cried.
But silver lining, they have a shot at number 1 being 10th.
That is how that works.
Under the new rules, you can go up as many as 10 spots. So I think 11th is the cutoff. So if they're in 11th, they could still go up 10 if my math works.
Whoa.
Scotty, it's time to spin. Let's see where the Red Wings land.
Let's do it.
Sim lottery. They landed 10th.
Right.
Buffalo.
Okay, just spam it until we're not 10th.
Okay. But officially, on this episode spin, we stayed at 10.
Yeah, 10. Yeah.
All right.
I just want you to spam it until we get literally anything besides 10.
5, 6. I'm losing count. I got to 6 and I lost count. That's really bad.
That's a high number for you.
That's
We
why I went
have
number
not
2.
moved at 10.
Oh,
Okay,
we dropped
to 11, and now we're back at 10. Awesome.
and then we dropped to 11.
And dropped to 11 again.
And again.
And again. This thing really is realistic.
Experience Red Wings hockey.
Right.
Oh, there you go. 11th again.
11, 10.
I just want to go up.
This is great, dude.
Oh, we jumped to 2nd.
Number 2. All right.
Michael Misa, you are a Detroit Red Wing.
Do you believe? Don't answer that.
I don't. All right, Scotty. We got a game to recap tomorrow. That's the bright side. Hey, at least we have games to recap, so we don't have to do a full 30 minutes on everything that is wrong with this team. Even though we kind of do that during the recaps, anyways. They're all kind of that episode. It sucks too. That's another thing that blows. Not to digress and extend the episode longer than it has to be, but that's what sucks when the teams like this is. What can you talk about other than the flaws?
It's a great question. I don't know why you're asking me.
It's just more of a hypothetical. It's more, you don't got to answer it. All right, Scotty, let's set them off to start their week. Got a game tonight. We'll recap it. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.